Now I would like to extend my invitation to Dr. Seeman Singh to put forth his views among us. Dr. Seeman?
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to extend my thanks to all the speakers just now, Priyanka ji and Anita ji, Gulshan, Ishabel, and I thank Bhumija for inviting me here. And namaste to everybody. Good morning and good evening, as you are where you are in which part of the world. And I would start talking about one of my presentation I want to share here. Yes, ma'am.
We are sharing your presentation, sir, PPT.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah.
So
visible, sir?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay. So just a bit of my introduction. I'm Seeman Singh, a PhD in geoscience. Right now, I'm working in Petronas Research in Malaysia. So basically, I am overwhelmed and happy to hear all the teachers here and all the respected dignitaries who has speak on the subject in length and width. So I have just put an attempt to kind of little bit correlation of the rocks with the ancient buildings, which is which is there in the various part of India. And this, I just want to correlate the art and culture which prevailing all part of India, and it's ancient Indian teachings, which the subject is we are talking about right now, and also how the old builders or ancient builders was having knowledge of rocks to make these marbles. So please move on to the next slide.
Sure, sir.
So here, this is just in a small outline that ancient marvels of art, culture, and technology, like Kailasa temple, some already just mentioned. I will have a little bit more information about that. Then Hoysala temples in South India. Those guys were certainly having better knowledge of the rocks, so that they can make those temples or big architect examples. They are still there, standing and telling that story. Their robust design, material, and they are intact for thousands of years. And earth sciences in contemporary education system and traditional teachings. So how old scriptures describes part of Indian rock exposures. So I have just one slide in there. Please move on to the next one.
Yeah, sure.
So Kailash temple. These are the caves constructed. So it's the 16th cave out of 34 there in Ellora. This is this is the largest monolithic structure constructed in 8th century by Rashtrakuta king and Krishna. This is carved from top to bottom. So that's very interesting here. All other structures, they have to plan and do carving from individual piece of the rock. But here they have taken to basalt, which is one of the hardest rock available, and that they have carved from top to bottom. They took 18 years only to construct these marvels. But basically, you see, if calculation done today, it requires at least 100 years to build such a structure, and about 200,000 tons of rock need to be scooped out from vertical cliff, one of the hardest rock, right? And then it represent the Lord Shiva, Mount Kailash. It is larger in the area than the Parthenon in Greece. Intricate sculptures and the kind of integrity of the material, you can understand that Aurangzeb, this king, has tried to destroy these temples many times, and their tries completely, they cannot be successful. Next slide is having some of the pictures there. So these are the structures and the intricate details you can see. They are simply not only possible by the chisel. They have to have some technology in place before they can construct these kind of details in the rock called basalt or granites. Like some of the example I will give you in the granites. So they are constructing those materials, granites and diorites. These are all very hard rocks, And in those rocks, they are creating such a minute details, which is amazing. And that is a kind of integration they had for the science and for the art at the time. Please move on to the next.
Can they do it now in modern science? Can they?
I'm not sure that the kind of details you are seeing in the top right corner of the image, you can see some of them is really very difficult even in the present. So that means they were having some very advanced tool to create these kind of very intricate structures. Please move on to the next one. Another one is Hoysaswara temple pillars. You see, here I just want to bring your attention to those pillars. And you see, these are 12th century temples. And lathe machines are recently invented, maybe 100, 200 years, right? But these pillars are surely done by some kind of lathe machines. They cannot be done manually or by chisels, because they are so symmetrical and they have grooves like you just generate them in the lathe machines. Right, so that means and even many of the scientists visited these sites, and they agree that this kind of structure, and this is what granite I'm talking about. So it's very hard rock, and you can see the shining polish. Even 1,000 years passed, and the sign is still there. So that means they have some better tools than the chisels or hammers. Please move on to the next one. Yeah. So now just a little bit of the earth science correlation with it. So you see, current view is geology is a branch of natural sciences, which is talking about various rock types, and then astronomical science. And we also define it as an art and science of studying the earth's surface and the subsurface with the tools available and the data available to us. Right? Geology studies these rocks, igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic, because just for the benefit of the larger audience here, though it's a very deep and very vast subject what we study today, but particularly correlating to this topic, understanding these three rocks is, I think, sufficient. So these igneous rocks, which is basically a magma type of very hot magma, it comes either come out, which is basalt I mentioned, and amplice, which is not come out, just amplice as a plutons, that is granite. And these rocks are very hard, right? And when they erode, they get deposited in the form of sand. This is the sedimentary rock, which is sand, which is very soft rock. Right, and then when they get under the temperature and intense temperature pressure, they metamorphose. So all these yellow ones, basically, it's a conceptual model. You can see that's how these rocks are distributed. So for sure, those builders were aware of these properties of the rocks, and they selected them carefully so that they can sustain for the centuries. Please move on to the next one. So ancient teaching about this, like Priyanka ma'am has discussed about the Vedas. Vedas literature like Vedas, Upanishad, and Puranas. They are full of scientific teachings. And our India is just distributed, and they described that it is a Jambu-Deep earlier. Now it is Bharat or India is the name. Initially it was Jambu-Deepa, which has big rivers like Sindhu, Ganges, Brahmaputra in the north, and Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal in the south. So Sheikhs described this as a Bharatvarsh between the Himalaya and Kanyakumari, and they had sufficient knowledge of the rock forms. Please move on to the next one. So there is one literature called Silp Shastra. Silp Shastra is having description of the distribution of the rocks in India. Right, so though I have not studied that particularly for this particular talk, I have tried to search through the internet and find out this about this one. But had it been taught also when we are doing our graduation, masters, or schooling, it will be a benefit for anybody. So that means if we have our ancient learnings also clubbed with the present learnings, for sure it is going to benefit and augment the knowledge what we have today, right? So this one is literally means the science of Silpa, which is art and crafts, and describe the art crafts and their designs, rules, principles, and standards into this particular Silp Shastra. Silpani works of art of man imitate the divine form by employing the rhymes, the metrical reconstitutes, and interpret the limitless knowledge of the sacred hymns from the limits of being human. And that is Aya Burman in the Rig Veda scripture is written. So these are so interesting texts available to us and need to be taught, because they are not available for the students somehow. So they need to be there, and it will for sure going to augment the knowledge. Please go ahead for the next slide. This is easy, very interesting map I have found. This is from the Silp Satra in the left side, and the right side is our recent understanding, which is geological map published by Geological Survey of India. And you can see the similarity. They are having some weird name which I don't even pronounce right now in the Devanagari Lipi. But you can see the granites distribution, the Deccan troughs, they have mapped in the ancient text, and the Gangetic Plain, and all including from Delhi, Rajasthan, Gujarat, this area. So the similarity you see, that means their knowledge and the knowledge available now is correlatable and comparable. Those guys were really brilliant to know and map them as accurately as we can do with the modern instruments today, right? So this is just an example I have given here. Please go to the next slide. So the conclusion from my all this compilation, it says that the collaboration and integration was part of the work culture in ancient India. As I have just shown some of the examples, that technically they were more advanced. It was not only the hammer and chisel. They were having advanced tools available for them, and they allowed to create these masterpieces. Present and future generations should be allowed to have access to our traditional knowledge along with the modern learnings, because now digital technology, the data sciences is having very good capability to integrate. So we need to have both the ends and encourage our children to have this knowledge and join them for their better knowledge in future. So researching and bringing traditional education will enhance knowledge and our valued tradition as well. And thanks for giving me your time and listening me for this. So namaste and thank you very much.
Namaste, sir. Thank you for enriching us with such a nice knowledge and with such a nice presentation. Thank you.